Hello, welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back. We're so good at these intros.
I know, we need to practice with a script for them.
I know.
Thank you all for watching, for listening today. Matt and I were really inspired by the conversation we had with Xanthi on our last episode, how she is no excuses.
No.
She gets it done. She's got a really, really high pressure job and she manages to fit training and prioritise her mental well-being, her physical well-being. So we wanted to share our sort of top tips today for how to do that.
Mm-hmm. In real life terms as well.
Real life, for real people. But first of all, obviously we have a coffee to be drinking. Let's go.
And a lovely cup.
Let's go, girls.
Let's go.
Ian doesn't want to participate. He's had enough caffeine.
I've had I've caffeine down.
See, this is nice. This feels like a morning brew.
I'm really glad you like it. And I'll tell you why. Because this is one of my favourite coffees. Well, this is our house espresso at all three cafes.
Oh, I did not know that for all purposes.
So if you were like, I hate it, I'd be like, oh shit.
No. This feels like I want to start my day with this.
So our very, very, very first podcast, if you remember, we had a coffee from Blossom.
Yeah.
Called, I think it was Las Laderas we had. This is Martia, which is from Colombia.
Colombia.
Also from Blossom. And I wait all year for this coffee to come into season because I love it so much.
This sounds stupid. It's seasonal.
Coffee is seasonal, yeah. I love that you've said that though.
I should know this.
No, you shouldn't. Not at all. Like,
Vibrating on the film.
It's alright.
Airplane mode. Yeah, it's seasonal. So like any, I guess, any fruit, like, it requires certain temperatures, certain humidity, certain altitudes, and therefore is affected by the seasons. So like, for example, this is from Colombia, and Colombia will be in season for a certain portion of the year.
Yeah.
The rest of the year is when they do their planting and their harvesting and things like that. So no, you can't get Colombian coffee all year round.
Which is great, I like
Or if you have, it's just because somebody has bought up loads of green coffee while it was in season.
Okay.
And then they're roasting it. 'Cause green coffee has a really long lifespan. So they can just hold it and roast it as they want it, if that makes sense.
Every day is a school day.
Every day is a school day. So we are serving Martia, but I got it in because it's such a big favourite of mine. I wanted you to drink it. I wanted to see what you thought of it.
Nice, yeah, really nice.
I always think it's got a really Blossom will never put flavour notes on their bag as well, by the way,
Really?
which I love because they're just like, what do you think it tastes?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be
Guess again.
yeah. I always think it tastes really biscuity. Like if you drink it in a flat white, I always think it tastes like a sort of, biscuit.
It tastes like morning.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank God. Whew. Okay, Matt. I mean, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah.
I actually wrote down to ask you because you work with people.
Mm-hmm.
Who
have this exact problem.
Who have this exact problem. Like, what's the first thing, what do you say to someone when they're like, oh, I'm really busy, I can't fit it in, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think this is a common problem for most people, but, just to piggyback off the whole Xanthi conversation, it's really about not falling into the trap of thinking that if you have a program or a coach, that it is the be end all, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
Be all end all?
Be all end all, yeah. It's not like, if you're having a set structure or a program, unless you do your workout on a Monday for exactly an hour, for exactly the same reps, exactly the same intensity or time, that your life's going to fall apart. So the first thing that I would probably say is a top tip is, it sounds obvious, but be flexible with the training and with the conversation that you're having with your coach. That would be my first one, yeah.
So flexibility, but do you think there's a difference there between skipping a session and rescheduling?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to unpack with that. So if you're obviously skipping sessions and you're not actually getting any work done, then that's, I guess, another layer of that coach and client sort of communication aspect of it, and finding out why or what their triggers are. And it might be due to work stress and everything like that, whether they're shift workers or corporate workers. But one, it's your job to find out that, but then the problem solving element of it is, okay, well, we'll go on to it probably later. I know it's one of your big top tips is managing your diary and your time in advance, but also being very flexible and fluid with that time. I think they make the best programs. And again, the best program that you can do is the one that you can stick to, right? So that's probably what I'd say about that.
So it's the difference between, like, is it a pattern of you're constantly skipping? There's obviously a bigger problem.
Yeah, there's a bigger problem if you're just skipping sessions, for sure. Yeah. But if you know, after you've had the open conversation with your client or coach, it's finding out why. And if it is a case of like, you know, I'm overwhelmed, I think that, you know, like Xanthi said, I'm working crazy 12-hour shifts. How do I even manage it? Do I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, the answer is no, you know, because if as a coach you're so rigid with your program, no one's going to stick to it, because that's not real life.
So realistically, do you think there are some people that would come to you and they'd be like, oh, I want to be an athlete and I want to train 6 times a week, and actually you might be like, let's be honest, you can't do that.
I say to pretty much 90% of my clients, and I have people who have, you know, let's say they're experienced athletes, so they know how to work with time management and everything like that. I also have people who, you know, want to completely like climb Mount Everest in their first week of training. What I always say to them, the biggest win that you can have when we start off is to just tick the days off. The daily wins are the wins. So if I set you a program and it's three sessions a week to start off with, I don't care when you do those sessions. Yes, it's obviously programmed in terms of I'm not going to give you, you know, 3 hard days in succession. There's going to be rest days in between, etc. But with any program, rather than it being like, okay, we're going to get straight into the digging of like transforming your body and energy systems and all this overcomplicated crap, the win is the routine of getting it done. You know, I've got clients now who they're like, oh, you know, am I doing well enough? I'm not doing well enough, and they're so analytical, and it's just about getting and creating the habit of, okay, look, you did Monday, and yeah, you had two days off, but then you did Wednesday, then you did Friday. We get to the end of the week, or we're checking in daily, and I'm saying that is an absolute win. Like, you've won, because last week you didn't have a program, you had no structure, you were just randomly jumping about for a few hours a week. That's the win. And it's having that dialogue and also having that accountability with somebody to tell you that, rather than you just thinking that you have to conquer the world every session.
Cool. So being flexible with
it's, you know, it's a broad term, but it you know, put in the right way, it makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
My top tip comes from a place where I never used to prioritise training or my well-being in any way. It would always go to the bottom of the pile. I would miss sessions. I would go for weeks at a time without doing anything. In fact, actually, I remember when we were refurbing a cafe, I remember getting a comment in my shared spreadsheet with my coach at the time where he put something like, "Hi, are you training?" Because like,
are you alive?
I just hadn't got in touch. I hadn't done anything. And the way that I got around that was treating training like an immovable meeting. So like, there will be certain things in your calendar that are non-negotiable. So one of them, like as a doctor or the dentist appointment, like you wouldn't skip that, and you wouldn't feel guilty about being like, I'm off to the doctors now because I have to do that. So that mentality of it is something in your calendar that cannot get moved. Sure, there are certain situations where you might actually call up the doctors and say, you know what,
of course,
the house is on fire, I can't come. But that's why I asked that question about skipping versus rescheduling. Yeah. Because when that does happen to me, that like the genuine things come along, it's a reschedule rather than a it gets moved in the calendar, if that makes sense. But yeah, that I block timeouts in my calendar. And also a top tip is to color code it as well. If you use a digital calendar, which I do, it's like my personal calendar is a different color to my work calendar, etc., etc. So I can visually see where that time is coming in. Yeah. But yeah, starting to think of it as an immovable thing, because you are investing in your health and your well-being. Yeah. You know, if one of the immovable meetings in your calendar is business or work related, you feel like, oh, that's because it fits into my work life or it's investing in my career future. Why are we not treating this with the same respect?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a great point. The other one that I was going to mention about another top tip is don't be scared to shorten the sessions. So we talk about people being time poor, which, you know, a lot of us are, and yes, we need to get better at managing calendars and things like that with work. But don't be afraid to have shorter sessions. So, you know, it's not going to kill you if you just pull your session back to 30-35 minutes. If it was, you know, classically programmed to be an hour. Of course, if it was to do with, you know, different stimulus or whatever training modality that you're going to do, like, you know, let's say like a long hour zone 2, but you only get 30-45 minutes done. Don't fall into the trap of feeling guilty about that sort of thing, because again, you've turned up, you've done work, you can go again. The other thing that I want to mention on that as well is watch out for like potential red flags. So as you go along your week, things like, you know, poor sleep, you're a bit more irritable, look out for those signposts and make adjustments as you go. So, you know, everybody's emotion changes during the week. How you feel on a Monday or a Tuesday evening, you'll look at your week and go, I can't be fucked here. I've got too much on with work. I'm going down to London. I've got to get back. I haven't got fucking time. I've done everything that I should be doing. Don't make, like, just think about the day. Think about, okay, well, if I need to move sessions, because how you feel on a Monday is going to be probably different to how you're going to feel on a Saturday. So if you just need to tweak stuff, watch out for those red flags so you can adjust as you go.
Isn't that thing you said about shortening a session? It's called something. It's like minimum effect dose or something.
Minimum, effective dosage.
So it's like, because it would be so easy, and I get this.
It's basically getting the most bang for your buck.
Right.
Yeah. So like, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was going to ramble about it.
No,
but
do it.
Yeah, no. So it's just the minimum effective dosage piece is again simplifying it down to, you know, with work, life, everything like that, but also the stimulus that you're trying to aim for. What is the minimum effective dosage that I can do? What's the minimum amount of work to get the maximum amount of results for anything that you're doing? You know, we can go off to tangents about whatever, running, strength, all that sort of stuff. But that's what basically it is in layman's terms.
What that means to me in real world, because I can relate this to like diet, is you have that thing of like, oh, I've fallen off the wagon, so fuck it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well,
I've just spilt my drink. Okay, I'll just pour the whole thing over the floor.
Exactly. So if in your head you're like, you knew you had an hour session, but you can only do 30 minutes, it would be really easy to go, well, fuck it, I won't do it then. Yeah. But actually that, like you say, it's something's better than nothing. Moving to your mental health, to your physical health, all of it.
Yeah, big time.
And interesting what you touched on there about how you feel on Mondays, how different how you feel on a Saturday, which is why I think it's really important to plan. Yeah. My real hot tip about planning is spend 10 minutes on a Sunday planning the week out.
Amazing.
It might not be a Sunday, it might be a Saturday, it might be a Friday for you, whatever. But spend 10 minutes at some point in the week booking it out. Because decision fatigue is a thing, man. Like, I know I get to the end of a really, really long or hard, stressful day. If I haven't planned my training session in, I ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I have to get there and you're relying on your own motivation, you're relying on your own energy there. But we've just said you've depleted it all. Yeah. So that decision has to have already been made at a time when you were stronger and more able to make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it's longer than 10 minutes because I'll sit and plan my week out in loads of various different ways. But I don't ever have to think about it. But then actually that's interesting because these two things are always so interlinked, like the food and thing as well. Yeah. I could definitely be better at planning out what I'm going to eat as well. Because I can definitely get to like end of Friday, Saturday and be like, oh, fuck it, let's just order this or do that.
Yeah, just go on the fuck it mentality for the weekend. Yeah.
Because it's difficult, like decision fatigue, planning the good food, but also I ain't no cook, so I feel like I don't want to stand here and do this.
Yeah, and we live in a world where it's not right, but like everybody's got to go balls to wall every single week. I've got to absolutely smash my training, smash my nutrition. You know, a week of like, you know, doing just what you need to do to get done, and maybe having the odd day and not being perfect, but you're sort of 70-80% of a classic good week is far better than you killing yourself and not really thinking about like that less is more approach that we spoke about.
I've just thought of this because like going back to the beginning-ish where we were talking about it's an immovable meeting. So you kind of remove that guilt of like putting time for yourself. Do you ever deal with that with clients? What do you say to them if they feel guilty about that?
Well, it's like 90% of my check-ins.
Yeah.
90% of the conversations that I have with clients are not about training. It is about training, obviously, but it's about, you know, helping, and again, not just going on about it, but this is the importance of why you need to have, and I say this to everybody, and I post about it on social media, but having someone to steer the ship with you. You know, you need to have that, that sort of individual to rebound off. You know, we all need it to speak to somebody to find out, okay, am I thinking the right way? What can I do? So that guilt thing comes up all the time.
What do you say to them?
It's about reframing and about understanding what good looks like, and just ticking off the day, just master the day. And it doesn't, I do it myself with my training. If you don't have the session that you say you're gonna have or that it's blocked in for, you just everybody's like, hating on themselves for one day, and it's like you've got the rest of the week to make this shit up.
Because I think, like everything else, it's practice. And by that, I mean, I definitely so I tend to train in the morning, which means that, I get up early, I get up at like 6 a.m, but I don't get up at like 5 a.m. in order to get it in. So sometimes there are some days of the week where you could say I quote unquote start my working day a bit later because of it. And I used to feel bad about that. Like, what do the people in my business think of me? Like, they think I'm swanning in at 10 a.m, that kind of thing. And actually, I think that if you wait for the guilt to go away, you're never going to do it. No. Whereas actually you've got to do it and realise that, what did I write down here? Don't wait for the guilt to go away. Act in spite of it, and that's how it goes away. Yeah. So like you practice, I do it. I don't feel guilty now because I show up for my business. I show up more intentionally with more energy, and
I think a lot of it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off because I think a lot of it is just like caring too much what people think.
Oh yeah.
Like that's in all aspects. Yeah. People gonna, oh my god, I've said I'm training for a half marathon or a high rocks, and oh my god, I didn't post today at 7 o'clock. And it's just like no one gives a shit. Yeah. No one gives a shit. In your world, it's everything.
Yeah.
But
they're living their own life.
Yeah.
They're worried about their own things.
Yeah.
But now, like I think that like for example, the team there will now ask me how's training going, or like they're interested in that. So it's like people don't think that. They don't think you're lazy. They don't think you're not showing up. They appreciate you're doing something that is really important to you.
Yeah. No, definitely.
People that care about you do anyway. When we talk about like planning though and like blocking out that time, I'm even planning the rest days.
Yeah.
So that I go into each day recovered and ready.
Yeah. Recovery, deloading properly or deload weeks. The less is more conversation is going to be a massive topic for us. So I think we should definitely talk about that on the next podcast.
In the coming weeks, we'll do a podcast on rest and deload and stuff. That's interesting actually because it's something that I've kind of had to get my head around. Yeah. And I know you know the science importance of it. And then I know the sort of like real world actually, oh yeah, that works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be good for people to listen to that, I think, for sure.
Okay, so guys, be flexible, plan your time, respect your time.
Yeah.
Watch out for red flags.
Yeah, don't be afraid to shorten your sessions.
And spend 10 minutes each week planning it.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you found that useful. Please drop in the comments anything that you think that you would like to talk about or implement. If you've got any ideas, let us know. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.